So wild woods, trees, forest. Um, we'll stay above ground this week. We'll put down roots and then go beyond the roots next week. Have you got a favorite tree? You don't have to answer me, but yeah, what do you go back to on your walks? I've got several in different places. There's one up near my dad that's become my favorite tree. It used to be my mum's favorite tree, and I visit it to remember my mum quite regularly. I've got one around here, a very, very, very old oak by the River Thames. Um, yeah, and there's one out near my brother's, which is on the east coast. Um, so yeah, I've got lots of favorite trees. Uh, I've got several I can view from here, and there's one that there's a kite nesting in. I noticed the other day. Somebody pointed out when I went and had a look. You're quite right. Um, so yeah, the favorite tree. And there's nothing, I can't speak for you, but there's nothing I like better than walking in the woods. Um, right from when I was little, there's just something peaceful about it, and particularly the kind of energy of a place. Um, there's a retreat centre in Germany, which I'm going to in August. I've been back every year and every summer, every August, pretty much. That's near the Black Forest in Germany. There's a lot of forest. There's a lot of walking out that way. Um, Up on a hillside, there's a massive circular kind of walk through the woods. Um, and it's really nice when you're doing come day to get outside and go and practice in the trees away from everybody else doing come day there. I like practicing on my own up there. Um, and returning to the same places and seeing how trees are moving and changing, what's managed and what's wild. And of course, there's the whole project of rewilding going on in the UK at the moment. There's a massive area in Wales that's been crowdfunded to be bought so that they can rewild it, which I was reading about yesterday. So, your favorite tree? That's what we're going to sit beside in a minute. But first of all, let's just loosen up. So, if you bring yourself into a comfortable sitting, don't worry about a formal sitting for the moment, and just take one shoulder forwards and one shoulder back, which I'm sure you now know is called loosening up. The torso stays relatively square, the face remains forwards, but the kind of shoulder yoke, if you like, just pivots on that center line. And we have played with it in class a little bit on Thursday nights as an axis around the heart. But for now, just use it as a loosening, a waking. You might get the odd click or pop. Or is that just me? Good. And if you want a little bit of a yawn or a little bit of head movement, just be a little bit instinctive about it. So don't worry too much about formal come nay, but if you want to circle the head or nod and turn the head, be my guest. Just take a moment to loosen where you need to around the head, neck, and shoulders. If you want a little bit of massage, you can rub there or knead the neck a little bit. Just take a minute or two. Okay. So assuming you've kind of loosened up a little bit, your shoulders, neck, etc., then come to a nicely grounded sitting. Think of your sit bones extending into the ground a little. Think of your knees dropping. If you're on a chair, then the heels, but otherwise on the floor, that nice quality of contact. And you can allow a sense of both the ground merging with you as you settle into the ground. And then very softly, just turn the fingers to point inwards on the knees or lower thighs. Allow the head to bow forwards a little and slowly follow it down. So it's half curving and half folding, folding from the hips and curling through the spine. Let's call it a furl, folding and curling. Keep the sit bones well grounded, the pelvis well settled. Simply by nature of bending forwards, you may find the abdomen's drawing inwards, and you're engaging just that little bit towards the base of the spine. It's not a clench, just a feeling of tone. It doesn't matter how far you go. If you've got your nose on the floor, fantastic, but make sure you're well settled. And if you're about halfway down, equally fantastic. Just stay within your comfort zone, no forcing, and breathe. Then gently turn the fingers to point forwards. So pivot the hands gently and begin to unfurl. So feel the pelvis settle and the spine can gradually grow. Take your time. Head will come up last of all. As you sit now, imagine you're sitting in the feeling or in the shade of or in the proximity of your favorite tree or one of your favorite trees. You can sense its shape, its form, its trunk, its branches. And in the shadow of, or the feel of that tree, as the light slants through the leaves, you can rest. You can take sanctuary there. We're going to revisit a poem you did in the very first session of this group of classes. So in the sanctuary of your tree, with faith. In the beginning, faith was a tree. Before the buildings, there were verdant yews and enchanters' rowans. The people sought comfort in the gnarled arms of wych elms and the broad spread of ancient oaks. The summer whisper of beeches was our song of joy. In lands where the sun works hardest grew the sacred fig and olive, the baobab and the cypress beneath these green canopies. The people gathered and found sanctuary and hope for the future. Before they worshipped in front of brick and gold, there was branch and leaf, and roots that ran to the very soul of the earth, because in the beginning, faith was a tree. So let's do the exercise one more time, and then we'll do a little bit of time travel. So the fingers can turn inwards once more, and you know where to go from there. Very, very slowly and in a sensual way, like you're out in the wilds, like you were feeling the bark of a tree, that kind of sense, or running your hand along moss, perhaps on one side of the tree. Allow yourself, even in repose, even as you rest there, to have that gentle stirring and movement, that life in you. It can come from breathing, it can come from feeling, just like the soft drift of branches or the movement of a young tree. And then again, from the base up, you can turn the fingers forwards, but slowly, slowly grow through the spine. So even in repose, you can have the sense of down, rooting, settling, and softly ascending at the same time. Because you move down, you can grow up, so to speak. Don't overthink it. Sense it. Can you remember or imagine? You can playfully pretend if you can't remember. The first time you came across your tree, the space it was in, the glade it is, or the area it is, whether there are other trees around or whether it stands alone, you know. Can you have that first recognition or that first wide-eyed sense of there's something beyond me here, there's something special, there's something rich, perhaps there was something in your life that informed you, liking, or perhaps it was just pure happenstance. Happenstance? Happenstance? I don't know. Pure chance. And is there a sense as you get to know it in a way, or there's a knowing about that place and that tree, of its history, of its timelessness? You could change the tree if you like and make a old oak tree or a Californian redwood, if you want a kind of timeless sense. You can imagine the environment, the sense, the feels, the breeze. Maybe there's water nearby, perhaps even a bird or something in the grass scurrying away. But the tree stands. Maybe by its girth you could estimate its age. How many generations? Bless you. I chance upon a sylvan glade, an Orphic place, moon threads, a lace of night-king shadows and a trill of breeze. Awaken the guardian trees, live oaks in gowns of moss, tall runes of pine. I hear the soft, slow sound of fairy rings. Up from the inner earth, the sacred circle. Fireflies, a skulk of toads, and the dead come forth. Up from their graves in pagan conjuration, sung heroes, hags, and godling visitations. I drink the midnight dew, a witch's brew. The tree bark I read, barred blind, Achilles' shield. I muse upon a knot of oak and a tangled root. I lie with Gaelic nymphs in ancient vales, the hum of power lines a mile away. If you're comfortable to, let's sit just that little bit longer in the sanctuary of your tree. Okay, so let's move from the sanctuary of the trees into what we might encounter in the woods, in the forest. And I had so much ideas and material for this. I've had to pare it down. So I hope I've made the right choices for you. But I thought we might look at the dryads, perhaps fawns, particular bugbear of mine, fawns. I'll tell you why in a bit. Um, Maybe the Green Man, which isn't quite woodlands, but it's certainly to do with growth and rebirth and seasons and so on. And possibly, if we've got time, unicorns, or I may cut them if we're over time. We can always look at them next week. There's various other things we could look at as well. Which order shall we do them? Let's do dryads first. Let's go older and then more western. So, uh, have I got several? No. So dryads, you probably know, it's a kind of tree spirity nymph. That kind of the character of the tree is sometimes characterized as a nymph-like creature. Uh, yeah. So how are we gonna look at that? Ah, yeah. I know what I was going to do. There's obviously a pose in yoga classes, certainly hatha yoga classes, and others. It's taught in different ways in different lineages of yoga. In Iyengar, it's purely balance and stability and so on. And there's two almost equivalents of it in the first Kumne book. They're slightly different. The one I like is called Increasing Endurance, which means nothing in our context today. But the posture I'm talking about in the yoga class is tree pose. In Sanskrit, it's called Vikrasana. Forgive my pronunciation of that. You perhaps know better than I do. Vikrasana, which means literally translates as it's always translated in classes as tree pose, but its literal translation, Vikrasana, means to put down roots or to develop stability if you're a literalist. But to put down roots is how it was always translated when I was training Vikrasana, the tree posture. Now we're going to do the Kumne version because that's the journey we're on. Um, which has a twist to it, a literal one and a metaphorical one. So, if balance isn't your cup of tea, I suggest you don't lift the foot and put it on the thigh. I suggest you put the heel on your ankle bone and the toes on the floor. Or if you want to do it with your foot on a chair, you can do. Otherwise, if you're comfortable, you can put your foot on your thigh. And you know exactly what I mean, I'm sure. But I will, for belt and braces, show you as well. And then we'll throw in some imagery for the fun of it. So if you want to have a stretch and then gently come to standing, you can do. And by the magic of cameras, we've changed focus. Or used a second camera, really. So, so why don't we re-establish some roots and some basics of balance just to be safe? So the first thing to do is sense the feet on the ground. You can sense the texture you're on. So I'm on kind of thick carpet. I don't always use a yoga mat. I like the kind of feel of carpet over rubber. or whatever they're made of these days. And you might want to just take the weights a little forwards and back on the balls of the feet, so toes to heel. You don't have to kind of unseat yourself. You don't go too far. Otherwise you topple. But just gently toe heel or ball of the foot and heel. And then gently from left to right, side to side. And then if you go from the ball of one foot to the heel of that foot, to the ball of the other foot, to the heel of that foot, front of the first foot, heel of that first foot, and so on, toe, heel to toe, heel on alternate feet. So you get a kind of soft figure of eight feel or infinity feel, infinity symbol feel, eight on its side. And just very, very gradually make that smaller. And come to settle. There can be that quality of allowing the feet to engage with the floor without pushing down and softly lengthening through the waist. I wouldn't lock the knees. Keep a bit of play, a bit of softness there. You can lengthen without locking. Just let the tail drop or feel natural. There's a curve to the back, that's fine. Soft tummy. Shoulders can drop for now. Now, can you keep that sense of connection through one of your feet as you drift over it so the head can come over the foot? So you've got a kind of lighter leg, an empty leg if you like. If you don't want to balance too much, if you don't want to lift the foot, just work with your heel on your ankle bone and the toes lightly on the floor. If you're happy to, you can lift the foot. You may need to manually lift it, or you may be able to just lift it. Rest it somewhere on the other leg, preferably on the upper thigh, not on the knee joint, above or below. Ideally, it would be above it. And just sense into that. So you're settling and supported through that foot with the head over the foot. Or the head over the hip, over the foot. But then happy with that? So just enjoy the transition then of bringing the foot down and transferring the weight back to the center line and through both feet. There are no prizes for guessing where you go next. So shift your weight. Feel how that transference happens. Let yourself settle through the foot as you bring the other leg to where is sustainable for you. It's not always the same one side or the other, so don't panic. And using a point of focus, either in the body, I'd say the foot on the floor, or an external focus, look at a point, preferably not the screen. Or both. And come mindfully out. So now we're going to add the arms. The arm position will go to horizontal to the sides. Keep your thumbs pretty much in your peripheral vision, so they're not behind you, alongside you, or just in front, depending on your range of peripheral vision. Be a little less if you're wearing glasses usually. Okay, then the spanner in the works, the wind in the trees, shall we call it, is that the body then rotates. So the gaze stays forwards on your fixed point, but the body will turn slowly, particularly the return from the turn. And we'll always go from the bent knee side first, the lifted leg side first, and then to center and then back. So our tree is drifting in the wind, or we are rotating. Us strange and wonderful tree spirits called Dryad. And then, of course, we'll add a bit of text. So pick a foot or pick your roots and settle through them as you shift the weight and lift the foot. Make sure you've got room to turn and allow the arms to elevate. Then gently turning towards the bent knee with the torso, but keep the gaze forward. You won't keep the arms in your peripheral, the back arm you'll lose. It's still there, but you can't see it. Now very, very slowly return. Don't panic. And then gently, gently, gently the other way. And back to center. If you're clever, arms and foot can come down together, but I wouldn't overthink it at this stage as you transfer to a more stable tree. Other side. Towards the bent leg first. Don't ask me why. and gently back and around. And back when you're ready. What does it feel like to stand after you've balanced? Or once you're back in stability, this is a balance. You know what I mean? Have you locked the knees? Can you soften them? Think of a tensile kind of strength, like the stem of a plant, like the trunk of a tree, as opposed to something rigid. When a tree hardens, often when it loses moisture, or the soil washes away around the roots, it becomes brittle. It's more likely to crack and break than a well-nourished, well-watered tree. So, can you do that for yourself? I lost one. Once more, each way. At about that pace, or a little quicker if you're panicking, or a little slower if you want. I seem to have lost more. Never mind. And then when we come to repose, I'll drop in a little dryad poem. It's not long. And then we can do it again. So I'll leave you to do it on your own. Or if you need a visual reference, you can always follow me. Hi, Morag. We're just repeating it once more on each side, so don't worry. Then we'll drop the poem. So you haven't missed anything except somebody drifting. When meadows are grey with the morn, in the dusk of the woods at the night, the oak and the birch and the pine war with the glimmer of night. The dryads, brown as the leaf, move in the gloom of the glade, when the meadows are grey with the morn, dim night in the wood was delayed. The cocks that crow to the land are faint and hollow and shrill. Dryads, brown as the leaf, whisper and hide and are still. So the fawn amongst the dryad trees creeps. There are several poems about the fawn. There's a Yeats one, which I can't remember, and I've put my Yeats text away. There's another one. The fawn, interesting creature. Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, when he goes through the wardrobe, the first thing he encounters. And I once auditioned for that long, long time ago, and they told me I wasn't hairy enough. I didn't get the role. Now I'm probably hairy enough, but far too old. So never mind. Uh, yeah, you can work out what film that was for. But anyway, I didn't get it. Didn't even get a second call. So, story of my life back then. So the fawn. We're going to do a cognate pose that I don't often teach online, but I'm going to because I thought it would be quite interesting for this. Uh, I think we'll do it then, sit down and then do the poem. The posture's called Trinity of Practice. It's then got a subtitle, I think, which I won't go into, but Trinity of Practice. So the easiest way to do it is talk you through it, but it does involve a forward bend and a hold. And it says on the horizontal, or a little lower than horizontal. And it says in the book, don't ever listen to the book, listen to your body. Look at the instructions in the book, then listen to your body while you try it out. I suggest you bend your knees a little bit to protect the back. So if you want your back to last over time, don't work with straight legs and bend forward. Soften, particularly in the coming up. So I'll talk us through it. There's 3 stages to it, surprise, surprise, hence Trinity of Practice. So the arms come forward. And then slowly, slowly bend the knees and fold forwards. So the head comes eventually, ideally, between the arms. The crown of the head will face forwards. Don't look forward. And find a little bit of length between your pelvis or your tail, if you like, your sit bones to your tail, out through your fingertips. You can then gently interlace the fingers and push your knuckles away. So you create a bit of length. Hands to tail. Then the hands separate, palms down. I don't always do it with palms down, but it says in the text palms down. And sweep the arms back like a kind of breaststrokey type movement. Shoulders then away from the ears and reach back with the fingertips and forwards with the crown. Bend your knees. Then you can release the arms as you drop the pelvis. And as the pelvis comes forward, so the head comes up. And you grow. And take your place in the space. And breathe. Again, arms forwards. If you've had enough, don't do it. Arms forwards. Body forwards. Interlaced fingers. A little more length. Separate the hands and slowly swimming, if that's the right phrase. Stretching gently or lengthening gently, better word, in opposition. And bend the knees. And come up. Can you stand with a kind of wide-eyed, cheeky presence? Or animal presence, if you like. Animal, human. One more time. Do you need words? You can do it quite speedily if you're tiring, or you can hold the stages for that little bit longer. I wouldn't go forever. And if your back isn't up to it or your legs aren't up to it, just mentally go through it or sit. But if you're happy to do it again, we'll be playing with this in a little more detail on Thursday night in the Combinate class. Okay. So if you've finished, you can stand for a little while longer if you want, or you can bring yourself to sit, which you might prefer. What do you think about when you hear the word fawn, or you have an image of fawn? Perhaps you have one from a story growing up, or you've seen artwork. You don't have to answer me, but you might have a sense, or maybe you think, what the heck is it? Are they gentle creatures? Are they helpful? They are in some texts. Are they cheeky? I always think of them as quite puckish, quite cheeky, quite mischievous. Are they male? They're female. They're generally male, I think. I can't think of female examples. And often in stories, there are sense of evolution to them. They're kind of humans that evolve into kind of animalistic playfulness, cheekiness, a kind of almost moving beyond the normalcy, which is very like the um, Buddhist term of stepping out of the normal, the mundane. Not quite enlightenment, but um, certainly on the path to it. That the sense of, I can't remember the translation, but that kind of sense of knowingness, knowledgeability. There's a word for it. Kind of an innate knowing, an innate reason, rather than one based on uh, a learning knowledge, more than a feeling kind of knowledge, that kind of animal quality, instinct. In a way, that's what you're training in Kumne, a sense to get things right because it feels right, not because a text tells you to do it that way. So that sense of evolution and I often see the fawn story a bit like that in some texts, particularly the older ones. Otherwise, they're just playful creatures or mystery creatures. Hunched like a fawn, he hooed from grove of moonlight glint and fen frost until all owls in the twigged forest flapped black to look and brood on the call this man made. No sound but a drunken coot lurching home along the river bank. Stars hung, water sunk, so a rank of double starlit eyes lit boughs where those owls sat. An arena of yellow eyes watched the changing shape he cut. Saw hoof harden from foot, saw sprout goat horns, marked how God rose and galloped woodward in that guise. When did we get a little more animal? A little wilder. There must have been times where there was a little more abandon, a little more wild play. Have we lost it? Or does it emerge now and again? I don't mean getting drunk and silly. I mean coming alive, or the opposite. And if any of you have ever read on in the Cumnay trilogy, as it were, into the Cumnay dance texts, there's a lot of that very alive, open meditation, very wide-eyed, outward gaze, absolutely ready, fundamentally ready. So that kind of the way Cumnay evolves in a way from the first text of relaxing into joy of being, sensory practice, becoming mind practice, which we're coming to on Wednesday classes, Monday and Wednesday classes, Morag's part of, into the mind stuff, and then into the expression of it all, which is the Cumnay dance. I'm not sure I like dance, but the way the gestures are just expressions of play almost, or of the less regime bound mind. So I like that about the fawn stories, or those kind of creatures. I'm on my soapbox now, but never mind. So can you sit in that kind of freshness, in that sense of potential, in that sense of playfulness, of freedom? And in October, there's a little course. I'm teaching it with a Dutch guy. I'm not quite sure how we're structuring it, but I'm teaching it on some of this. It'll be Sunday morning, 6 classes or 8 classes. Okay, you're welcome to remain sitting. If you need to or want to lie down, you can do. So we've got about 8, 10 minutes left. If you want to lie down, you can, or you can remain sitting if you're comfortable. And we're going to look at the Green Man, or one of the Green Man poems. We'll look at another one next week. I've got a couple, but we'll look at another one next week. But we're going to look at the Green Man. So get yourself comfy, however you want to be, sitting or lying. If you've ever been to a spring festival, there's one in May near where my dad lives every year. They have Morris dancers and they have kids performing and all sorts of stuff like that. But every year they have a kind of load of, I don't know what they are, villagers and locals, all dressed up, kind of robes and things, banging drums and percussion and tambourines. And in the heart of it, there's the Green Man, dressed in leaves and so on. And slowly they shedded or pulled, and symbol of spring. It's every May, first weekend in May. Um, so the Green Man, usually his face or sometimes his whole body is made of leaves. It's a symbol of nature, growth and rebirth. So it's often the spring. It's very pre-Christ Celtic-y. Often depictions of the Green Man show leafy branches growing from his mouth. But I thought I'd give you a slightly different twist on it. So this is called The Green Man in the Garden. Oh no, that's not the one I want to give you, is it? No, The Green Man in the Garden is the famous one by Charles Kingsley. I'll give you another one, which is inspired by that. It's less classical. It's more fun. So get yourself comfortable. Let yourself settle. Take a few easy breaths. The green man in the woodland, his face held in the trees, a brow of bark and heartwood, breath and speech of leaves. Green man on my balcony, dancing through the pots, coaxing out the new growth, entangling it in knots. Green man in the city streets, stones across his back, wriggling out and leaping through every tiny crack. Green man in our shed past, carved into the walls, found around the wide world, watching over all. Green man in the memories of people as they roam, carrying the heartwood of where they first called home. Green man in the green dreams of astronauts in space, amidst the high and cold stars, they see his earthly face. Green man in our future, call him when you can. It helps to speak the leaf tongue. Green man, green man, green man. New life, change, and rebirth. Springtime. Okay, you can stay as you are for a bit. Next week we'll move in a slightly different way through the woods and the forest. And we'll look at not just Atri, not just creatures of the forest, but we'll look at creatures low to the ground, perhaps. But we'll also look at the ways trees open up, the way they grow, the way they communicate is the main thrust of next week. I've had great fun writing next week's. Um, and ways that they communicate underground, which is the most wonderful thing, I think. A lot of people are writing all sorts of things about it now. Interesting fact I read this week or this weekend uh, was that trees in certain areas of the world, um, never mind all that's going on underground, which we'll come to next week. I've got a lovely meditation written just for you guys. Um, but yeah, one of the facts I was reading is there's certain area of the world, I can't remember which area, but when giraffes eat trees, wherever that is, the trees give off pheromones to let other trees know that the giraffes are in the area eating trees. So the trees talk to each other through these chemical pheromones, letting them know that giraffes are eating them, and to watch out. Um, uh, so the trees send these out, but the giraffes have learnt that. So they come from the tree upwind, I think, so that the pheromones go in the wrong direction to the giraffes approaching. It's very, very complicated and clever how they've evolved to compete with each other, these trees and the giraffes. If I can find the study again, I'll send it to you. It was something I read online, so whether I can find it again. But it was really quite fun to read how trees and giraffes were battling each other for survival. Yeah, unbelievable how trees communicate above ground, never mind below. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll move into that next week. And if you were disappointed you haven't got giants, then it's too late to get your money back. So, thank you all. I hope some of that was useful. It's not just me being indulgent.
It was lovely, Bram. It was